This is an updated version of a project that we released at Farsight back in February 2022. Now, the project involved the consequences of the 2024 election, and we were interested in what would happen publicly once the election completed, specifically in terms of any events that we could see that might indicate the public response to the election. Now, we are revising that project now because we, or rather I, made a mistake with the interpretation of the data with respect to time. With remote viewing, you cannot target a specific date or a specific time period. A number, such as a date, is an abstract thing. It's not a real thing. Remote viewing works on the level of events, places, people, and other such real things, not abstract numbers. So our mistake was to try to limit our interpretation of our data to the 2 months, December 2024 and January 2025. The idea was the event that occurred on January 6, 2021 in Washington, D.C. happened soon after the 2020 election. So we, or rather I, assumed that any similar type of response to the election would happen within the 2 months after the 2024 election. And that was my mistake. Our data are perfect. And what our viewers perceived is playing out in the streets across the United States now in the summer of 2025, starting in June, not January 2025. Again, remote viewing works on perceiving events, not dates. You cannot remote view what will happen on a specific day, say November 20th, 2023. If you are targeting a type of event, a good remote viewer will perceive that event even if it happens in December or October or whenever. The intent of the target is what matters, not the date. So we are re-releasing the post-2024 election aftermath project again in June 2025. The remote viewing sessions have not been changed at all. The only thing that has been changed is my interpretation based on the timing of the perceptions. I'm Courtney Brown, Director of Farsight, where we study the perceptual process known as remote viewing. Remote viewing is a mental process that is done using highly structured methodologies that are derived from those developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. But Farsight is civilian, and we use remote viewing for scientific experiments and for exploration. This project conducted at Farsight employs 3 remote viewers who are among the most experienced and highly trained viewers existing today: Intisam, Aziz Brown, and Yeme Genet. The remote viewers all describe much the same thing, all corroborating reports. Moreover, all of the remote viewing was done totally blind, and none of the remote viewers communicated with one another about the project during the data collection phase. This is not science fiction, told through riveting remote viewing conducted under clean, defensible, scientific conditions. This is as real as it gets. So first, let's talk about the target for this study. For this Mysteries project, there is only one target. The target is the most significant and publicly visible and politically consequential activity in the United States of the 2024 U.S. presidential election that reflects on the condition of the form of government in the United States. Now, this time frame for this target is the months after the 2024 election. The timeline is the most probable future based on current conditions. Now, of course, the remote viewers were not told anything about the target or the nature of the project when they did their sessions. They were told only that there was a target and that they should remote view it. They all began their sessions totally solo, and after they finished all of their work on paper, they moved to video to complete the collection of their remote viewing perceptions, and all video sessions were completed with no one else in the room except the remote viewer. And only after all remote viewing was completed for each viewer, including their video sessions, were the viewers told the identity of the target. Now, this project also had some movement exercises that the viewers were to complete. The viewers were only told to move to generic identifiers such as events E, E1, E2, F, G, as well as to focus on various subjects, such as Subject 3 and so on. They were not told what those events or subjects were, and we sometimes rotated the names of the events and the subjects to mix things up. But we will tell you what these things are when you see the sessions, and it will all be clear when you see the sessions. Friends, I want to remind you all that one of the most basic findings of the Farsight Research Program is that we exist in a universe of multiple timelines. There is no one future, no one past, and no one present. In terms of the future, there are an infinite number of futures, and in terms of the past, that means there is an infinite number of pasts. And which one we will actually experience when we think about the future will depend on the probabilities associated with the current conditions of the here and now. However, whenever we use remote viewing to perceive into the future and thus bring information from the future back to the present, you increase the probability or the possibility that the future will change. Consider a dream in which you foresee some event that you do not want to experience. For example, a terrible traffic accident. And after waking up, you decide to stay home instead of going to work. You might later hear of a huge traffic accident that occurs on the very road that you would have taken on your way to work, and at the same time that you would have been on that road. So what you have done is taken perceived information from the future and then changed your behavior to avoid that undesired activity. We are all familiar with these types of things. Well, remote viewing allows us to do this future information gathering more systematically and under controlled scientific conditions, using highly trained remote viewers. Well, the bottom line of all this is that we are not able to state that the remote viewing results that you will now see will definitely happen. Indeed, by bringing these perceptions back from the future, we change the probabilities that what is perceived will actually happen. But some may see these results and then act on this information to change what happens in the future. Thus, this future that we will show you may be avoided. However, based on the conditions that I see developing right now in the summer of 2025, it looks like we're headed right into the storm. Thus, I personally think that the probabilities of changing the future are not great, even with the information that you will soon see. The emotions are too high, the stakes are too great. People are not entirely rational any longer, and people are being driven by their emotions. And it's not just one issue, it's a variety of issues. So in my opinion, I think that the perceptions that you will now see firsthand in this video will very likely happen. One never knows for sure. The future is always in motion, to quote Yoda. And it is true. But there are probabilities with timelines. And I think the probabilities are such that what you will now see is the future that we will actually experience very soon. Let's get started and take a look at what these remote viewers perceived, beginning with Intisam, and then Aziz Brown, and finally Yeme Janae. This is what we have seen actually happens in the United States during the months following the 2024 election, which occurred in November 2024. Watch this sitting down.